Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real today. When you do this, he feels you in his soul. I ain't talking about attraction. I ain't talking about chemistry. I'm talking about connection, that deep, quiet pull that makes a man stop and say, she different. When a woman connects with a man's spirit, not just his body, he feels her in his soul. You see, there's a difference between attraction and connection. Attraction is instant. It's that spark, that chemistry, that thing that makes two people drawn to each other. But connection, real connection, that's something built in the unseen. It's something that goes beyond physical touch or sweet words. It's when your energy, your essence, your very presence starts to speak to his heart without saying a word. It's when he feels you even when you're not around. That's soul level connection. That's something most people spend their whole lives trying to find and never do. When a woman connects with a man's spirit, she doesn't need to prove her worth. Her presence says it all. She becomes a reflection of peace in his chaos, calm in his confusion. She doesn't chase his attention because her energy already holds it. Her words don't need to be perfect because her spirit speaks louder than her voice ever could. And that's when a man starts to feel something he can't explain. He doesn't know why he thinks about her all day, why he feels her when he's driving, working, or praying. It's because she's touched something deeper than his mind. She's touched his soul. A man may meet hundreds of beautiful women in his life, but when he meets the one whose spirit aligns with his, everything changes. It's not about how she looks. It's about how she feels. It's about the energy she carries, the peace she gives, the faith she walks with. When her spirit feeds his, he starts to see her as a part of his journey, not just a chapter. He starts to dream differently, think differently, live different. He feels inspired, grounded, and alive in a way he's never felt before. That's not lust. That's purpose meeting purpose. That's soul meeting soul. Sometimes she won't even say much. It's just the way she listens when he speaks, the way she sees through his words to what he really means. When she prays for him without him asking, when she stands beside him in silence and still gives him strength, that's the spirit connection right there. That's when he starts to feel something divine in her, something pure, something he can't walk away from even if he tries. He starts to feel her in his dreams, in his thoughts, in his peace. That's when she becomes more than just a woman. She becomes his calm, his comfort, his motivation. You can't fake that kind of bond. It's spiritual, it's divine, it's real. And once it happens, it doesn't fade with distance or silence. It stays. Because when a woman connects with a man's spirit, she becomes a part of his soul. Every time he grows, he feels her presence in it. Every time he succeeds, he remembers her belief in him. And that's when he knows he didn't just meet a woman, he met a blessing. Real connection comes from understanding peace and emotional safety. You can't build something deep with someone who feels judged, rushed, or misunderstood. See, when two people come together and there's peace between them, that's when the soul starts to open up. A man can find a woman beautiful, funny, or even exciting, but if he doesn't feel safe around her, safe to speak, safe to be weak, safe to be real, he'll never give her his full heart. That's why understanding matters more than perfection. It's not about always agreeing. It's about listening with the intent to feel, not to fix. It's when you look at him and say, I see you, not just I hear you. That's when he feels understood, not just tolerated. Men are taught to be strong, to hide their emotions, to keep everything inside. But deep down, every man wants a place where he can lay down that weight, a place where he can take off his armor and not be attacked for what's underneath. When a woman gives that kind of space, when she doesn't mock his silence or force his words, but lets him exist without pressure, that's emotional safety. It's rare, it's precious. It's what turns love into loyalty. Because once a man feels that peace with a woman, he doesn't look for it anywhere else. Understanding means being patient with what he doesn't say. Sometimes a man won't open up right away, not because he doesn't care, but because he's never had a place where he could. The world doesn't give men that luxury. So when he finds a woman who offers him calm instead of chaos, who gives him peace instead of pressure, his soul begins to rest. That's when he starts to feel connected in a way that shakes him. That's when love becomes healing instead of heavy. Peace is not the absence of problems. It's the ability to feel safe even when things aren't perfect. When a woman carries peace in her tone, her presence, and her reactions, she brings balance to his world. She doesn't argue to win. She speaks to be understood. She doesn't use silence to punish. She uses it to protect. Her energy feels like home, and that's something no amount of beauty or charm can replace. Emotional safety means he can be vulnerable without being viewed as weak. It's when he knows she won't weaponize his pain or throw his truth back at him later. That kind of safety builds trust, and that trust builds love that runs deep. Because once he finds that peace in her, he won't want to lose it. That's when he starts to protect her, cherish her, and fight for her. Because she's not just someone he loves, she's someone who makes his soul feel safe. And in a world full of noise, a man never lets go of the woman who gives him peace. Men don't just fall for beauty, they fall for how you make them feel. You can be the most beautiful woman in the room, but if your energy doesn't bring peace, a man won't stay. The truth is, men might be drawn to looks, but they fall in love with emotion. They fall for the woman who makes them feel alive, understood, and appreciated. A man might admire a woman's beauty, but he'll chase the one who makes him feel valued. Because beauty catches his eye, but emotion captures his heart. The way you make him feel will decide how long he stays, how deep he loves, and how much he gives. When a man is around a woman who brings peace, it changes everything. She doesn't drain him, she refills him. She doesn't make him question himself, she helps him believe in himself. She doesn't make love a battlefield, she makes it a home. And that's what he truly wants, a home. Not a house, not a place, but a feeling. A woman who can look him in the eyes and remind him he's enough, even when he's broken. That's the kind of love that touches his soul. See, men live in a world that constantly demands something from them. They're expected to lead, to provide, to fix, to endure. But what most people don't realize is that men feel deeply. They just don't always show it. When he meets a woman who doesn't add pressure, but brings relief, she becomes his peace. When he can come to her and feel calm instead of chaos, she becomes unforgettable. He might forget your words, your outfit, or your perfume, but he'll never forget how you made him feel on his worst day. It's not about grand gestures or fancy words. Sometimes it's the little things that matter most. The way you smile at him after a long day. The way you listen when he talks about something that matters. The way you believe in him when he doubts himself. Those small moments plant seeds in his soul that grow roots over time. That's the power of emotional connection. It's invisible, but it's the strongest bond there is. When a man feels emotionally seen and cared for, he doesn't just love you, he trusts you. And trust is everything. It's what allows him to open up, to share his fears, his dreams, and his truth. That's when love becomes deep. Because a man might be surrounded by beauty, but he'll always return to the woman who makes him feel peace, the one who makes him feel like himself, the one whose presence calms his storms and whose love doesn't feel like a fight. That's the woman who lives in his heart long after the world forgets her name. Because men don't fall for faces, they fall for feelings. And when you make a man feel peace, love, and purpose, you don't just touch his heart, you touch his soul. When you believe in him, support his purpose, and give him peace, he feels you deeply. Every man has a vision, a dream, something he wants to become. But behind every strong man who reaches his purpose, there's someone who believed in him before he believed in himself. That kind of belief is rare. See, a man can handle struggle, rejection, and pain, but what truly fuels him is knowing there's someone in his corner who sees his potential, even when he's still fighting to find it. When a woman stands beside him, not just in success, but in the storm, her presence becomes his anchor. She becomes the quiet strength behind his loud ambition. Belief is a powerful thing. When you look a man in the eyes and say, I know you can do this, even when he's doubting himself, that sentence sticks in his soul. It becomes the voice he hears when he's ready to quit. It becomes the fire that pushes him to keep going. Most men don't say it out loud, but they crave that kind of emotional support. They want to feel seen for who they're trying to become, not just what they are right now. And when a woman gives him that kind of energy, she becomes unforgettable because she's not just loving the man, she's loving his mission, his purpose, his fight. Support doesn't always mean solving his problems or leading his path. Sometimes it means listening, encouraging, and standing with him in silence when words aren't enough. It means celebrating his wins, but also reminding him he's still valuable when he loses. It means trusting his process, even when it doesn't make sense. A man can face the world's doubt if he knows he has one woman who believes in him without question. That's the kind of loyalty that builds legacy. That's the kind of love that gets into his spirit. And then comes peace, the rarest gift you can give a man. The world doesn't give men much peace. They carry pressure, expectations, and silent battles. So when a woman gives him peace instead of problems, comfort instead of conflict, she becomes his safe place. Her voice becomes a healing sound in his chaos. Her presence becomes his reset button. When he's with her, his shoulders relax, his tone softens, and he feels whole. That's when he starts to realize he's found something sacred. When a woman can believe in his vision, support his grind, and still give him peace in his mind, she connects to the deepest part of his being. He starts to feel her not just in moments, but in his motivation. Every time he wins, he remembers her words. Every time he falls, he hears her faith. That's not ordinary love. That's divine partnership. And once a man feels that, he'll spend the rest of his life honoring it. Because when you believe in him and give him peace, he doesn't just love you, he feels you in his soul. A man never forgets the woman who made him feel safe enough to be vulnerable. The truth is, most men grow up being told to hide their emotions, to be strong, to never show weakness. The world teaches them that being vulnerable is the same as being weak. But deep down, every man carries feelings he's too scared to express, fears, insecurities, pain, memories he's buried just to keep moving. And when he meets a woman who gives him space to let that guard down, that moment becomes unforgettable, because she's not just another person in his life. She becomes the one who saw him when no one else did. It takes a special kind of woman to create that kind of space. She doesn't demand his emotions, she earns his trust. She doesn't pressure him to talk, she lets him come to her in his own time. She listens without judgment and responds with grace. When he finally opens up about something that's been weighing on him and she doesn't use it against him or make him feel small, that's when he knows he's safe. And safety to a man is everything. It's the difference between staying guarded and giving his soul. See, vulnerability isn't easy for a man. He's been taught that no one will understand, that no one will care. So when he finally finds someone who not only understands, but protects that truth, it changes him. He begins to trust differently, love differently, and live differently. That kind of woman becomes the voice he remembers when he's at his lowest. He remembers how she made him feel when he couldn't even express what he was feeling. That memory doesn't fade. It settles deep inside him. A man may meet many women, but he never forgets the one who made him feel safe in his silence. She becomes his peace in a world full of noise. Her presence reminds him that it's okay to be human, that strength doesn't mean being hard, and that real love allows you to be soft. When he can cry in front of her without shame, when he can share his fears without being belittled, he realizes that love isn't about perfection, it's about safety. That's when he begins to open his heart in ways he's never done before. And once a man reaches that level of vulnerability with a woman, he will forever hold her close in his spirit. Even if life takes them in different directions, he'll carry her kindness, her warmth, her understanding in everything he does, because she became a part of his healing. She made him feel like his truth mattered. That kind of connection doesn't fade with time. It becomes part of who he is. So no matter what happens, he'll never forget her, because she wasn't just someone he loved. She was the one who gave him the freedom to finally be himself. When your love comes from a place of truth and calm strength, you stay in his soul forever. Real love isn't loud, it isn't forced, and it doesn't beg for attention. It simply exists with quiet power. When a woman loves from a pure place where her heart is steady and her emotions are grounded, that love becomes unshakable. It doesn't fade when life gets tough or when emotions change. It deepens. A man can feel when your love is rooted in truth. He feels it in your patience, your consistency, your honesty. He feels it in the way you stand firm even when things get hard, in the way you love him without controlling him, and in the way you give without expecting anything back. That's a kind of love that doesn't just touch the heart, it reaches the soul. When your love is calm, it carries power. The world is full of noise, chaos, and pressure, but when he's with you and your energy feels peaceful, he'll be drawn to it like home. A calm woman doesn't chase, she attracts. She doesn't need to prove her worth because her spirit already shows it. Her strength isn't loud or aggressive. It's silent and certain. She can walk through storms without losing her grace. She can love deeply without losing herself. That's the kind of woman who lingers in a man's soul because she doesn't just love him, she teaches him peace through her presence. Truthful love means being real, not perfect. It means saying what needs to be said with love and standing firm in who you are. A man can feel the difference between a woman who loves him out of fear and a woman who loves him out of truth. Fear tries to control, truth tries to connect. Fear demands, truth understands. When your love comes from truth, it doesn't depend on what he gives. It's a reflection of who you are. And that authenticity is what makes it unforgettable. It gives him something to trust, something to respect, something to admire. Calm, strength is what keeps love from breaking. When you love from that space, you don't crumble under pressure. You love with patience, not panic. You know when to speak and when to be silent. You know when to fight for him and when to let life teach him. That balance creates respect. It shows him that your love isn't fragile, it's divine. And when a man experiences that kind of energy, it changes how he sees love forever. Because truth and calm strength leave an imprint on his spirit. Even if time passes or life shifts, he'll always feel that presence inside him. He'll remember how your love didn't try to possess him, it helped him grow. He'll remember how your peace became his balance. That kind of love doesn't fade or get replaced, it becomes part of who he is. When your love comes from that deep, honest, peaceful place, it doesn't just touch him for a moment. It stays with him for a lifetime, written quietly in his soul.